My name is Leif Montin. I'm originally from Sweden. I came to the United States in 1969 as a consultant to Saab USA, and after a few months I was offered the job as National Parts Manager for Saab, which I accepted, and I was there for 10 years. And at the end of my period, it so happens that John DeLorean and C.R. Brown, the marketing manager for DeLorean, came to Saab to discuss the possibilities of using the Saab drivetrain for the DeLorean. At that time, C.R. Brown met with our service manager, who was Bill Charles, who had worked for C.R. Brown at Mazda. And after a while, C.R. Brown called Bill Charles, said he needed a service manager, and Bill Charles accepted the job. And a couple of months after that, Bill Charles called me and said, we need a parts manager. So I interviewed with C.R. Brown in New York when he was up there for a board meeting. I interviewed with him in his hotel room in the morning. And 2 weeks after, I got a call and said I was hired. We met at Saab's parking lot. He gave me an envelope with $1,000 and a ticket to England. And that was my start. I flew over to Belfast. So when I first got to Ireland, to the plant, which was an experience flying to Ireland at the time with the shuttle and the restrictions and all that stuff. They had a parts manager there whose name was Rusi Mogrelia, and it was my job to find out what kind of parts was being put into this car, so I could plan our inventory as well as dealer inventories. And Rusi Mogrelia had no idea what was going into the car. She said, that's all at Lotus. And they don't give us any information. So I said, well, in that case I have nothing to do here. So I got myself a ticket and flew up to Lotus. And there I was sitting with the different engineering groups to find out what the heck they were doing. They were then contracted to build the first 14 prototypes of the DeLorean. So they have different models running at the test track, different shapes and forms. And I was trying to find list of the parts that they were putting in the car. They had an engineering parts list which had about 10,000 part numbers in it, and I realized that there's no car that has 10,000 parts in it. But what they did, whatever they tried, they put into this engineering parts list, and eventually that was going to filter out to what actually went into the car. There were no drawings of anything of the stuff that they designed, so I was trying to pick up as much information as I could, and then they showed me the platform where they had the car, a model car in wood and clay and whatnot, and I was looking at this thing here, and I see those big rear wheels and the small front wheels. I was just wondering what kind of spare are they going to have. So I asked, where's the spare tire going? And their cheeks dropped. They had never thought of a spare tire. There was no room for a spare tire. But then I realized, if I get a flat, what am I going to do? Even if I have a spare tire, but where am I going to put this rear tire? Because if you had your girlfriend with you, you got to send her on the train and put the tire in the passenger seat. That was the only place. So when I got back home, I wrote my report to C.R. Brown, and that in turn created a lot of actions uh, from the U.S. demands on Lotus on cleaning up the engineering parts list. And Bill Charles and I flew back to Ireland a couple of months after to sit down with all the engineers and try to clean the mess up, which we did, and also mentioned there are no drawings. So eventually they got into the contract that everything should be presented with drawings as they. Since we had the responsibility of creating the service manual, the parts manual, and all the technical information, we took 3 people that we had handpicked and placed them in Ireland, and whatever came from Lotus, they took care of, took it apart, pictured, and assembled it to build up the service manual, as well as collecting information for the parts manual. And the first cars that we got were flown over in May of 1981. We got 27 cars that was flown into California. And we looked at them, and C.R. Brown said, "There's no way we can sell this car for 25,000. There's no way." So the same day we went and we leased an old Chrysler auction center in Santa Ana. And at the time we had hired a sales, service, and parts representative. They were all combined. That was going to be our contact between the dealer and ourselves. And we called them all in, and we had them tear down these cars and build them up, and we had to order and manufacture certain parts that were missing. And that took, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks, something like that, before they had it all together. And once they had set up the system, they started hiring in people to run the quality assurance centers, as we call them. And every car had to go through that process, taken down to nothing. The first cars, we had 65 hours into rebuilding them. So most of our profit was gone, actually. But they did a good job, I must say. They did a really good job. And once it was done, C.R. Brown had a heck of a dinner for everybody. He flew in all the guys' wives from all over the country, and we had a marvelous dinner. And he had a speech, because C.R. Brown had been at the quality assurance centers around the clock practically, and directing everything that was going on. And he held a hell of a speech where he mentioned every one of the representatives and their particular peculiarities and so forth. So that was quite nice. And after that we set up the other quality assurance center in New Jersey and one in Michigan. So we had 3 quality assurance centers in the 3 port of entries.